other than Joanna the scammer. Now, I need you to know that this woman got on social media and told y'all that God called Covered by God, covered by Squid.
While I agree with Joanne that Tiffany's ministry is covered by a squid, I don't believe that this is God that revealed this to Joanne. I believe it is the ego conscious. Both these young women are encountering their ego conscious, not God. Well, I guess it would be God because their ego conscious is their God. This is not a knock to Joanne, though, because for Joanne's age, this is par for the course. It's a manner of evolution and a stage in evolution that every human being goes through. It just manifests in a myriad of ways. The way in which it manifests for Joanne is par for the course, again because of her age, her youth. However, for Tiffany to still be going through this stage, and she's 35 plus, is a wee bit troubling. And it's very worrisome for Tiffany to be going back and forth, for one, with the very creation that she made. It is the Tiffany Montgomerys of the gospel that created the Joanne. When operating from the ego conscious, the children that are produced are said to be the quote-unquote new God. The ego conscious is the God of the time. The children they produce are the gods of the future. And anytime you can't control the God of the future through manipulation, you then become the old God or the auntie. All of this is addressed perfectly in Carl Jung's analytical psychology. It appears that Tiffany is having a very hard time accepting that she's the auntie and not the it girl anymore, which is why as of late she's been going around, with these one-sided arguments stating that God tells her to call out Beyonce, knowing that in a million plus years she'd never get a response, knowing that Beyonce doesn't know she exists. It's like an imaginary war, a figment of Tiffany's ego conscious and imagination. All of this to deflect from the fact that her prophecies are failing and that she couldn't keep control of the new gods, the Joannes. Now, it is not my personal belief, but this is the way the ego conscious has been proven to work.
This woman said that God sent her to my house, sent her to my bedroom, sent her to my backyard. She didn't see a man in sight.
Again, these visions that Joanne is having, is my belief, has nothing to do with the Most High God, but the God, the demigod that is called the ego conscious. It appears that Joanne has been programmed to believe a fairies version of the Bible, which is the same program that Tiffany Montgomery is under, which is showing that Tiffany is in self-destruction mode. Why? She's coming for Joanne, the mind that she made, trying to destroy it because she cannot control what Joanne does with the images. However, it's a catch-22. Because in the destruction of these types of mind, Tiffany, you're destroying yourself because you need the type of mind that Joanne has to stay afloat. She's arguing that the way Joanne thinks makes Joanne a stalker. In that case, Tiffany, all of your followers would be stalkers. You need the ego-conscious stalking mind to stay afloat, the very mind you are trying to shun, shame, and destroy because you can't control it in the youth. Again, it appears that many of these young women who follow Tiffany, well, I wouldn't say young, but the 35 plus community that follows Tiffany are ones who, like her, haven't got married and have made a theatrical thing of this not being married and not being where they want to be in life. The Walt Disney fairy version of disappointment and not getting what you want. Telling the world that you're engaged like that young high schooler did in the movie Clueless when she didn't have a boyfriend, but she wanted everyone to believe that she had a man, so she would send herself flowers and send herself gifts in front of a crowd because she needed people to project a certain type of energy onto her so she can feel a certain way without having the man in her life she needed to invoke the feeling. This method is addressed in Jungian psychiatry as well, known as projection. It's what a person does when they lack a feeling within. They put on the show of a lifetime for the people. So the people will project this type of energy force onto them, hoping that they can draw in a man or a lifestyle that they want because they can't produce the energy from within to get what they want. Tiffany has been prophesying for the last few years about the year of the bridegroom, but she has yet to produce a husband despite coming out saying she was engaged, showing off her ring. Still not a man in sight. When Joanne says that she astral projected into Tiffany's home, I 100% agree, but I don't believe that that was by the power of God. It is by the power of the same force Tiffany gets her miraculous moments from, and that's the ego conscious. That's why it is short lived. That's why Tiffany perceived that a husband was going to come and went out in front of the world flaunting a ring, but still doesn't have a husband in sight. Tiffany's ego conscious has not been telling her she was going to get married. Tiffany's ego conscious has been sending her images, trying to warn her that based on the fact it is impossible for she and the majority of these women to get the fairy tale end that they desire, and that she needs to curve this nonsense. This is why Tiffany now is reinventing the year of the bridegroom, because I do believe that she stated it's no longer about marriage at all, or it's more so about a marriage to Christ as opposed to a physical human being. Based on some of these previous so-called prophecies that Tiffany gets out and tells to the world, her ego conscious has been trying to warn her a while that the future that she and many of these 35 plus aunties desire is impossible to get, and she misinterpreted the images. After perpetually doing this for years and years, the ego conscious has abandoned Tiffany and is on to the Miss Joanne. What Joanne does is a science, and it's not an easy feat. Now, the Tiffanys of the world laugh it off. Those of a particular age laugh it off. But this young woman, what she's doing is actually very masterful. She's found a way to take the anime and the fantasy of the world and bridge it to the gospel of Christ in a manner in which it makes perfect sense to herself and those within her age group, and based on the God Tiffany serves, which is the ego conscious, is out with the little Miss Tiffany's of the world and in with the little Miss Joanne's. And there's nothing that this God Tiffany perceives that she serves can do about it. In the order of the ego conscious, the youth trumps all. And Joanne has the fountain of it for now anyway. This is why Tiffany's so-called prophecies are becoming a day late and a dollar short.
God said, she said God told her to get back on TikTok to tell all of y'all that I didn't have a man. One day I'm going to share with you my testimony. And when I do, I want you to know that in the Bible days, this woman would have been stoned for what she said to y'all. She's operating out of a familiar spirit. She's operating out of a spirit of divination.
Tiffany, this young woman is operating from the ego conscious. The very ego conscious that you serve as well. Only for her, it's simply par for the course. She's supposed to go through this phase at her age. However, you have aged out. Tiff, just move on and leave the ego conscious to the children. That's who God made it for.